Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading out loud to you guys. Wait, did it start over? Wait, what? I'm supposed to be starting chapter 9. Oh, I fucked up. God damn it.
Bitch! I love you!
Chucky, thank you so much for the follow. We're having slight technical difficulties right now. Alright, well, I think I'm going to turn this into some clicking ASMR. Well, I try to catch up to where we were, which is in chapter 9. And I've done this enough times now. Thank you for the hug. Damn. Sorry, Chucky. We're doing a smart, good berry run through. He's also a bit of a Chad. Right, I did. All right. Woo. Alright, sorry to all of those that had to wait while I did that. We're starting chapter 9. I'm not gonna have all that much time to read, unfortunately, but I'm going to try and read some since I recorded this in the first place. Thank you, Infrabank Lizard. I'm impressed by how well I knew that, considering I've done this so many times, thanks to BlueStacks. All right. After finishing our briefing and finding our way out of no, it's all saved to my my Play Store account. It'd be really inconvenient if I could do that. I think technically is saved locally since it's supposed to be saving on here, and then I transfer all of it to transferred this, right? And it doesn't crash. This one, game loop doesn't crash. Back to cloud menu. Back. Return to game. After finishing our briefing and finding our way out of the ruins, we waved goodbye to Leo the leopard and we leave. Well, I'm gonna save once I'm done. Fair enough. No. No, it's a smart idea considering how many times this has crashed. Save early, save often. After finishing our briefing and finding our way out of the ruins, we waved goodbye to Leo the leopard. We grab our backpacks and we start heading towards our new objective. Flower is leading the way again, but this time she looks a lot less confident than before, and there's definitely some uneasiness in her voice as she speaks to us. Okay, so we'll need to follow this path. We'll need to follow this path for the next few hours until we reach the first crossroads, the girl says. After that, there isn't really a path to follow anymore, so you're going to have to stick close to me if you don't want to get lost. If you want to take food breaks, just tell me and we'll... Flower, Kate interrupts her. Why did you agree to come with us to the ogre stronghold? Isn't it a little dangerous even for you to be heading straight into monster territory like this? Well, yeah, but if I didn't agree to come with you, Alea would have killed you. So what? Kate asks. If the fox killed us, then our blood wouldn't have been on your hands. Why would you go so far out of your way to help a group of complete strangers? It's not like... Why not just let her kill us and go on about your business? I don't know, I just couldn't... Kate looks at her for a few seconds, and then she smiles faintly. I see, she says. Flower, I believe we may have started off on the wrong foot this morning. Allow me to rectify that. She then holds out her hand to her and says, My name is Kate. Pleased to meet you. Flower looks somewhat taken aback by Kate's sudden shift in attitude towards her, and she shakes her hand hesitantly. And my name's Rose, Rose says as she offers her hand as well. I'm glad to have you with us, Flower. I'm Hadrick, says Hadrick, but you can just call me Dorf. Either name will do. Flower takes a few steps back and is now starting to panic. I'm sorry, she says. I've never really been accepted into a group before. I have no idea what you're supposed to say in these situations. It's okay, Flower, Kate says. You don't need to say anything. Oh, Kate says as she starts to calm down. Well, that's a relief. Introduce myself to Flower as well. Keep my silence. Well, good, Barry. I'm Barry, I tell her. Pleased to meet you as well. Oh, thanks, Flower says. But I already got your name. It's pretty easy to remember. You can say that again, Hadrick says with a grin. It's probably also the reason why you can't throw a rock without hitting at least 3 berries in the western continent. Well, I mean, she is a banshee, or she has a banshee in her, so most people either try to run away screaming or want to kill her, so that would explain why. mean, she's not a scream, but other people are. He then starts laughing loudly, as he usually does. Is Barry a common name on the other continents? Flower asks me. Yeah, I've met at least 24 berries in my lifetime, and I don't really socialize much, I tell her. Well, to be fair, my name is also pretty common on the northern continent, especially for giants like myself. You're a giant? Flower asks, shocked. Wow, I guess you must really have been the black sheep of your family, huh? Hedrick laughs. You're not completely wrong there, little girl, but my family's opinion of me has nothing to do with my size, I'm afraid. The only reason I'm this small right now is because I've magically shapeshifted myself into a dwarf. I assure you that my height is well above average among my peers. I've always meant to ask, Rose says, why did you choose to shapeshift yourself into a dwarf and not a human? Wouldn't it have been easier to fight if you'd kept your body proportions at least somewhat similar to your original form? Remember how I said that my friends call me the dwarf? Hedrick says. Well, that's because I had spent most of my time drinking with dwarves from the northern continent, and because I'm shapeshifting into one more often than not, and because I'm shapeshifting into one more often than not. Given that I've picked up their accent and mannerisms in the many years I've spent in their taverns, I thought it would raise less suspicion if I just came here disguised as a dwarf instead of a human. Plus, I've always enjoyed fighting with a handicap, so that's also a bonus. He laughs again. Flower is now approaching Darren and starts to address him. I'm sorry, I still didn't get your name, she tells him. Darren, he says. The name's Darren. You really don't like me very much, do you, Darren? The girl says with a concerned tone. I like you just fine, he says. It's the banshee I'm not very fond of. Oh, lighten up, Darren, Hedrick says. What do you think she's going to do? Betray us all and join the ogres once we get to their stronghold? Actually, that's exactly what I'm worried about, Darren says. I think I'm starting to understand why Petal doesn't want to talk to you guys, Flower says. If I may ask, Kate says, how exactly did you and Petal come to share the same body? I've never heard of something like this happening before. Oh, Petal told me that our souls fused together during her awakening 20 years ago, Flower says. I don't really know the specifics of soul fusion, though. You'll have to ask Petal about that. Wait, 20 years ago? Hedrick says. How old are you exactly? I'll be turning 30 next month, the girl says, smiling. Seeing the looks on our faces, she decides to give us a bit more context. A body stops aging after it's been possessed by a banshee, she says. I was just about to turn 10 when Petal awakened. Good one. I'm so sorry about what happened, Rose tells her. It must have been a terrible ordeal for a child to go through. No, you've got it all wrong, Flower says. The day Petal awakened was the happiest day of my life. At long last, I had someone here with me to share my world with. You cannot possibly imagine the joy I felt when I realized that I no longer had to live my life alone inside of my own mind. Live inside your own mind? You mean to say that you space out a lot? Talk about an active imagination. I know a good doctor in the Western continent if you're interested. Do you have a preference? I'll go with the first one then. Live inside your own mind. Yeah, I don't agree with any of them either. Live inside your own mind? Do you mean to say that you space out a lot? No! Flower shouts. I mean that I'm literally living inside my own mind, and I've been doing so ever since I was born. Why doesn't anyone ever believe me? I believe you, Flower, Kate says. You do? The girl asks. Yes, because you're not the first person to tell me of this. A friend of mine called. She pauses. Kate pauses a bit before she begins to speak again. A friend of mine called Diane was in the same situation as you, and she wasn't the only one. Many of the orphans from the Beacon of Hope were like this. The Lasathi call them ethereals, people who identify with their souls instead of their body. Their souls? Rose asks. Yes, Kate says. Most people don't even know that they have a soul because they only use their five senses to explore the world around them. However, the soul, which stores a person's memory and the very essence of their being, is actually being kept on the ethereal plane, in a pocket universe that is usually referred to as their mind. While the human brain facilitates the interaction between the soul and the body, it's not the sole actor in the creation of an individual's personality. As most scholars would have you believe, after a person dies, in the same way that their body decomposes and eventually becomes one with the earth, the person's soul also decomposes into ethereal matter and eventually becomes one with the ethereal plane once more. Hey, that's not what they taught me in giant school. As far as I know, once we die, our spirits are all supposed to go to the afterlife of whatever god we worshipped during our lives on this plane. Believe what you will, Kate tells him. I am merely reciting texts from the old Lasathi books that I was allowed to read during my time at the Beacon, or at least the books that they were kind enough to have translated into the common language. Getting back to the subject at hand, the ethereals are different from other humans because they experience life from the perspective of their souls instead of their bodies. Imagine living your whole life inside a giant puppet, unable to get out, forced to use it every time you need to interact with a person from the outside world. I sometimes pretend that I use invisible strings to control my body, Flower says. It makes life in here a little more bearable. Most children will instinctively realize that something is different about ethereals, Kate continues, so they will usually isolate them from a very young age and not accept them in their groups. Being left alone, both in their mind and in the outside world, ethereals are forced to find their own ways to cope with their situation. Some of them will simply start shutting the whole world out and isolate themselves even further. Others will make titanic efforts to integrate themselves into society, but the social awkwardness that they gained from years of isolation will always stand in their way. Living their lives alone in their own minds causes many ethereals to develop eccentric personalities and to fixate on a hobby they like until they become exceptionally skilled at it. Diane used to love tinkering with complex devices for hours on end. Flower, I assumed that your chosen hobby would be acrobacy? I've never said that word out loud, I don't think. Acrobacy. I don't think that's correct. Oh yes, Flower says. I absolutely love it. I used to be in a circus when I was little, and since then, there's rarely a day when I've neglected to train my acrobatic skills. While your acrobatic skills may be noteworthy, Kate says, they are by far eclipsed by your natural affinity for magic. Do you know why that is? I'm not sure, Petal always told me that I am learning magic at a much faster rate than should be humanly possible. Ac- acrobacy. I feel like it's acrobacy. 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 Oh well. I'm not sure. Petal always told me that I'm learning magic at a much faster rate than should be humanly possible. Is that because I'm an ethereal too? Yes. The ethereal plane is closer in nature to the magical plane than the earthen plane is. For this reason, your unique perspective allows you to understand magic much more naturally than the rest of us. You know what? It's not even a correct word.
Acrobacy.
Acrobacy. Syllabless. Okay. But I don't think acrobacy is a word. Because it's not. It's saying it's spelled wrong. It's acrobatics. Yeah, it's not a word. It's acrobatics. Well, it's not a correct word then. Okay, back to the story. Um, yes, the ethereal plane is much closer in nature to the magical plane than the earthen plane is. For this reason, your unique perspective allows you to understand magic much more naturally than the rest of us. Being an ethereal does not grant you magical powers upon birth, but those that are also born as mages are fated to become extremely powerful. This is why the Lasathi from the Beacon of Hope made it their mission to capture as many ethereal orphans as possible, in hopes that their experiments would have a greater chance of success. My friend Diane and her brother were both ethereals, and they turned out to be quite the prodigies. I think I'm starting to understand why Petal was so surprised to find me inside my own mind when she first awakened. Flower says, "Welcome, that team hero." Fantastical. Is fantastical also a fantastical word? It sounds like one. If I were to venture a guess, Kate says, I'd say that your unexpected fusion with the Banshee's soul also came as a result from your rather unique circumstances. Normally, a Banshee would find the soul defenseless when she invades her host's mind, but you must have been... Oh my gosh. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Currently I am doing some ASMR story time. I'm reading out loud to you guys from a storybook app called Magium. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Irish Pooh Hair, thank you so much for the raid. How was your guys' stream? Yeah, normally I turn off the sound alerts, but it's kind of a pain to do that, so I didn't do that this time. Sorry to everyone who's listening to this recording. It being disrupted by the sound alerts. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. How was your stream? For everyone that's joining right now, I am reading out loud, so I don't know if you guys want to listen to that or not, but it's a really cool story. It's choose your own adventure, so if you guys want to help weigh in on some of the choices, you're more than welcome. And people like the sound of my voice, so most people listening fall asleep. And also, Diddy Kong 20, thank you so much for the follow, much appreciated. You did not ruin my story. You did not ruin my story at all. You guys are wonderful for the raid. Oh, Shadow Revan Knight, thank you so much for joining. Hi, how are you doing? Yeah, I do. Thank you for trying to do that. It's funny. Well, if you guys want to listen in and fall asleep, you're welcome. I feel like I'm missing a lot of these chats. A bald version. If you're okay with that, then that's great. That means a lot to me to hear. I'm glad that this is calming for you and that I can help. I'm doing really well. It's been a really fun stream. I finished Hellblade, by the way. Alright. I'm gonna get back to the story, because I do record these, so whoever's on YouTube listening to it will probably not be interested. Yes, I beat it! I will tell you about it Next time we're in a stream together. Thank you. Okay. Where was I? Here we are. If I were to venture to guess, Kate says, I'd say that your unexpected fusion with the Banshee's soul also came as a result of your rather unique circumstances. Normally, a Banshee would find the soul defenseless when she invades her host's mind, but you must have been waiting for her, armed and ready. Given that you had the terrain advantage, she had no choice but to settle for a compromise. Flower gasps loudly all of a sudden. Oh no, I just realized something, she says. The beacon you spoke of, and the experiments. She pauses. Are you an artificial mage? She asks. I am. Why do you ask? Oh gods, you must have had it so much worse than I did. At least I had Petal's experience to rely on when we were being chased down by banshee hunters. She's taught me a lot of survival tips that have come in handy along the years. Would you like me to share some of them with you? I suppose it couldn't hurt. Great, Flower says, as her cheerful smile returns to her face once again. I'll try to remember everything I know on the way to the ogre stronghold. Come on, follow me. We can talk more while we walk. Ethereals, huh? Wait, what was the voice I tried to do? Ethereals, huh? Araka says to herself while we start our long march towards our objective. That's a pretty cool sounding name. I might actually start using it for myself from now on. We spent the next few hours following the path that Flower told us about. During this time, Darren and Hadrick started a bit of a competition to see which one of them could tell the most interesting story from their adventures, while Kate and Flower started sharing their similar life experiences with each other, which seemed to bring them a little closer together. Once we reached the crossroads and around noon, we all stopped in our tracks, and Darren started addressing Rose with a serious look on his face. Rose, I think you should take this path and head to your hometown as soon as possible. Don't worry about us and the callers. We'll be fine. The sick people in your town are all waiting for you. She can't leave, Kate says. Remember what the leper told us when we left? If any two of the callers get further away than 3 miles from each other, then all of us will start getting electrical shocks of increasing intensity surging throughout our bodies. If the callers get more than 4 miles away from each other, then we'll all get killed. The Lasathi were the ones who originally designed these devices, and this was a measure they took to keep their prisoners in check. Rose, I am so sorry. I did not know it would come to this. I should have tried to stop you when you offered to come with me yesterday. This is all my fault. Kate, you had no way of knowing this would happen, Rose says. Even with this detour, I'll still arrive ahead of my original schedule, as long as we keep following the direct route we've been using until now. There's no need to apologize for any of this. We're friends, remember? Not knowing how to answer, Kate simply nods to her, and we all decided to take a small break to eat some food, because we haven't really eaten much since our imprisonment. After I finished my meal, I noticed that Flower, who wasn't particularly hungry, had decided to make use of this time to practice her fire magic by shooting fireballs at various rocks lying on the side of the road. You sure do like to train, huh? I ask Flower as I approach her. Oh no, I'm not training right now, she says. I just like blowing stuff up. How old did you say you were again? I'm almost 30. Then why are you always acting like a 10-year-old? Or you do realize that your brain technically never developed past the age of 10, right? Does anyone have a preference that's listening? Also, gotta say, I relate to Flower very strongly in this specific matter of blowing stuff up. Well, I feel like for Smart Berry, it would go this way. Yeah, I was trying to avoid that. I am also almost 30, technically. Damn. Okay. You do realize that your brain technically never developed past the age of 10, right? La 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 la, I'm not listening, the girl starts shouting as she covers her ears and starts singing. I rest my case, I say, and then decide to change the subject. So, what did you do with Araka? I see you're not wearing the amulet around your neck. Oh, she said she wanted to socialize with the group, so I handed her over to Hadrick for a while. Since he's the only one of you that doesn't seem to have an aversion towards her. She then points towards Hadrick, who is holding the amulet in his right hand and having a conversation with Araka about ogres and ways to kill them. It's a shame that I won't be able to transform back into a giant when we reach the stronghold, Hadrick says. It's been a while since I fought some ogres, and I really miss hearing the satisfying sound of them getting squashed under my feet. Well, at least you'll get to see the looks on their dumb faces when you'll be sending their own fireballs back towards them, Araka says. Actually, ogres are so stupid that I doubt they'll even have time to realize what's happening before they get burnt to ashes. Both Araka and Hadrick start laughing loudly at the same time. You know, I'm actually pretty good at teleportation magic, Araka says. If you free me from the amulet, I could teleport a few of the ogres here and we could have a little practice run before the main event. What do you say? Nah, Hadrick says with a grin. Well, it was worth a shot, Araka says. I'm so glad that Araka finally found someone she can relate to, Flower says, looking genuinely happy for her. I don't really have a lot in common with her, so we don't talk that much, and Petal hates her guts. That begs the question, I tell her. Why are you keeping her still keeping her with you? I would like to ask the same question, Kate says as she approaches us. Wouldn't it be better to just throw her at the bottom of a lake and be done with her? I don't really feel very comfortable traveling with her at my side. Her very aura sends chills down my spine. I can't throw her away, Flower says with an uncharacteristically serious expression on her face. Why not? Kate asks. Because she can free herself from the amulet if we leave her unsupervised. She barely has access to any magic while trapped in there, but with the little she has, she's able to generate a very small explosion as long as she is left alone to channel the spell for a few hours. So what? Kate says. If she gets away, then it's not your problem anymore. Wrong, Flower says. If she gets away, she'll become everyone's problem. She's that powerful, I ask her. Yes, she is. Have you heard of the Still Winter? Only bits and pieces, I tell her. I heard that it was a great war between the Lusathi and the still waters of this continent. some 600 years ago. That's pretty much the main gist of it, Flower says. What I'm betting you haven't heard, though, is the fact that Araka used to be the leader of these still waters. The Banshee? Kate asks, leading an army of still waters. She wasn't alone, Flower says. She was fused with the Stillwater guy, in the same way I am now with Petal. From what I hear, our two cases are the only two occurrences of soul fusion in our history. After what you've told me, Kate, I'm willing to bet that this Stillwater Araka fused with was an ethereal as well. Hold on, I tell her. Can banshees possess male hosts? I thought they always went for women. That's because all banshees are female spirits, Kate tells me. In order to minimize the risks during their awakenings, they tend to only possess female bodies so that their magical auras are closer in nature to those of their hosts. I assume that a spirit as powerful as Araka has no need to take such precautions. Oh, oops. I read that as Flower. That's right, Flower says. Araka was so powerful, in fact, that it took the combined effort of Alea and the Creator to put a stop to her rampage. The Creator is the guy who is considered to be the founder of Varathia's current civilization, right? I ask her. Yeah, that's him, Flower says. So as I was saying, the Creator and the Fox managed to defeat Araka, but only temporarily. Even they weren't powerful enough to kill her outright, but they managed to cast a very complex spell on her which forbids her to possess any of the humanoid races. For the next 600 years, she was forced to possess only animals which are too weak for her to be able to use her full powers. Is that a serious question or a joke? 'Cause no, it's not Chris. Oh, no, it's not. And I recently read a inspiration for the creator's personality, and it's based off of a mixture of a bunch of anime villains. Oh shit. Oops. Um. Oh, I also just got your joke that he is technically the creator. Actually, yes. Sort of. You'll get it towards the end of book 2. Because so she's already been roaming free for 600 years. Why is she more of a problem now? I asked her. Because of me, Flower says. The nature of my magical aura has changed drastically since my soul is fused with petals. And since my aura is so different now from that of other humans, the spell cast on Araka cannot identify me as a human being anymore, and therefore does not prohibit her from possessing my body. Even if I were to throw Araka somewhere far away, she'd just break out of the amulet and find her way to me sooner or later. And then it wouldn't be all over for me and Petal. It may well be the end of the entire continent, or maybe even the world. Wait, I tell her. You're saying that you have to keep Araka under constant supervision so that you can dispel her explosion spell before she fully channels it? But what happens when you sleep? Oh, Petal and I sleep in turns, so our body technically never goes to sleep, Flower says. In fact, Petal's been sleeping ever since we left the ruins. But what if you both fall unconscious? Kate says. Well, at first we tried to see if there weren't any incantations we could use to automatically dispel any spells cast in an area every few hours, but unfortunately, all of them required the caster to consciously focus on the spells that they want to interrupt. Flower then turns towards Araka, who was subtly channeling an explosion spell while she was talking to Hadric, and she dispelled it with a flick of her finger. Gods be damned, Araka shouts. Girl, do you have eyes on the back of your head? See, Flowers tells us, you can't dispel it unless you focus on her spell specifically. So instead of going for automatic dispelling, we made a spell that continuously tries to wake us up in the case that we both fall unconscious, and if it doesn't manage to do it in 2 hours, it kills us both, which at least ensures that we'll have a peaceful death instead of Araka absorbing both of our souls and then destroying the world. Wow, Kate says. That's quite a pragmatic approach. It was Petal's idea, Flower says, smiling. I thought as much, Kate says. Speaking of Petal, how have you two been getting along these past 20 years? So, what's life with Araka life like? Would you say that Petal is the smartest of your group? If there's anyone conscious that wants to weigh in? I would probably go for one of these two, since I'm doing good Smartberry. I'm leaning towards this one. Okay. So, what's life with Araka like? It's not as bad as you might think, Flower says. I mean, okay, she tries to get us into trouble with any chance she gets, but when things really get serious, she can be very helpful. If I die, she won't have any more humans left to possess once she gets out of the amulet. So it's in her best interest to help us stay alive for as long as possible. Hey, Flower, Darren shouts from a distance. Is this the right way to the ogre stronghold? No, Flower shouts back as she runs towards where Darren is standing. If we keep going this way, we'll end up in the middle of a swamp. We need to turn left here and then follow this trail until we get out of the forest. The 6 of us resume our journey, and Flower takes the lead once more. The girl has become much more reliable since we got out of the ruins. She looks like she knows exactly where she's going, and she's regularly checking various landmarks that she's set in the past in order to make sure we're still on the right track. She must have walked these paths many times throughout the years. As it starts to get dark, we decide to make camp in a valley near a small river where there aren't many trees that could hide any potential ambushers. Flower and Kate went to scout the area around our camp while Darren and Hadric, who both had several spare tents in their enchanted backpacks, are now busy setting them up. Since they said they didn't need any help and there wasn't really anything else that needed doing, Rose and I sat ourselves down on a log not far from them in order to not get in their way. So, I start to ask Rose, how have you been holding up lately? You looked pretty shaken up after we ran into that Hydra, and you didn't seem to be doing so well after the dragon attacked us either. Rose blushes as she hears my question. Oh, you noticed, she said. Oh, no. Oh, you noticed, she said, sounding a little embarrassed. Well, it would have been a bit difficult to ignore you with the whimpers and trembling and everything. As I finish my sentence, Rose punches me in in my left arm, but she does so very lightly. I would have barely felt her touching me if I weren't paying attention. I'm starting to understand why Kate hits you so often, Rose says, smiling playfully. But thank you for your concern. As you may have realized, I have always been afraid of giant monsters. I am accustomed to small and medium-sized ones because I've run into several goblins and ogres during my travels, but the very thought of meeting a dragon in the flesh would always send chills down my spine. I've never I never imagined I'd come face to face with both a dragon and a hydra in less than one day. I knew they existed, but I hoped I'd never run into one of them during my lifetime. I can't imagine what it's like for people like Darren and Hadrick who fight monsters like these on a monthly basis. She pauses. Come to think of it, this must be pretty new for you as well. New for you too, isn't it? From what you've told me, you had never fought a goblin before coming to this tournament. How are you always able to remain so calm despite the fact that you've had your entire world turned upside down? I'm not calm. It's just that I'm very good at hiding fear. It's because I'm carrying the stat device with me. I guess I've always been a little crazy. Since I've finished this story already, I'm going to say that this one is the most accurate. So I'm going to go with this one unless anyone says differently. Okay, I'm going to go with this one. I guess I've always been a little crazy. Rose giggles softly. I suppose that fear would be the last thing on your mind when you're crazy enough to come to a tournament like this without any kind of magical abilities. Hey now, that's just not true. I mean, sure, I'm not a mage myself, but the stat device I'm using is a pretty powerful magic item, especially when it gives me actual magic powers like in that fight with the dragon yesterday. Rose smiles. You know, you were really gallant up there. Well, you were confronting Tyrath, she says. Something about the look you had in your eyes before you went to fight the dragon made me feel really safe, and cast away all my fears. Once she stops talking, Rose suddenly realizes she was blushing, so she quickly turns her head away in a clumsy attempt to hide her face from me. Wait a minute, I say. You were blushing just You were you were blushing just now. I saw you. I was not, Rose says as she turns her head back towards me to show that her cheeks are no longer red. You must have been imagining things. Can we change the subject? She pauses. Please? She then adds with a pleading look in her eyes. Seeing the look in her eyes, I could no longer bring myself to continue teasing her, so I changed the subject as she requested. All right then, I say. There's actually something else I've been meaning to ask you in private since this morning. What do you think about Flower? Rose looks like she's somewhat surprised by my question. Do you mean in a general sense? Rose asks me. To me, she seems like a charming young girl with a cheerful personality and a kind heart. And I find that she is a really fun person to be around with. What about you? There has to be some reason why you asked me this. What do you think about Flower? I find her a bit annoying, to be frank. I just can't bring myself to trust her. I was just thinking about what Darren said this morning. I think she's pretty fun too. I was just curious to see if you thought the same. So smart, good berry, I'm gonna go with this one. I think she's pretty fun too. I was just curious to see if you thought the same. It's too bad that Darren doesn't seem to share our opinion of her. Can you blame him though? Banshees aren't really known for their moral integrity, and that girl shares her body with one. Well, I for one trust Petal, but you haven't even talked to her. No, but Flower has. They've been living together for 20 years. If Petal still has Flower's trust after all, If Petal still has Flower's trust after that much time, then that is enough for me. Maybe you're right. I don't think anyone could hide their true nature for such a long time. If the Banshee were up to something, she would have given herself away at some point during those past 2 decades. I mean, nobody can act that well, right? While Rose and I were finishing our conversation, Darren and Hadrick were starting to work on the last 2 tents. Kate and Flower, who had just returned from their scouting mission, reported that there was no suspicious activity around our campsite, and then they both took a seat on a log next to us. Once the tents have all been set, we decide to go to sleep early in order to be well rested when we leave tomorrow at the crack of dawn. Flower volunteered to take first watch, and then she immediately went to climb the highest hill to get a good view of the entire valley. As she passed by me, I could sense her aura weakening considerably, and the Banshee's aura becoming a lot stronger. Does this mean that the girl went to sleep and left the Banshee in charge of the night shift? If that's so, then this would be the perfect opportunity to get to know the Banshee a bit before we reach the Ogre stronghold tomorrow. Aren't you going to sleep, Barry? Rose asks me as she sees me just standing there. Tell her what I just noticed about Flower and Petal. Tell her to go ahead because I need to do an inventory of my backpack's contents. I'm gonna go with this one. Actually, I was thinking of staying up for a while longer. I then whisper in Rose's ear that what I noticed about Flower and Petal, and I tell her that I want to have a little discussion with the Banshee before I go to sleep. Rose gasps. Barry, that's an excellent idea, she says. Hold on, just give me a second to leave my backpack inside my tent, and I'll come with you. As the two of us make our way up towards where Flower went to oversee the valley, I start to realize that my intuition was right, and the girl really did go to sleep. I can feel the outworldly aura around her is definitely the dominant one at this point in time. And as we get closer, I see that her eyes are shining with a bright blue light, in the same way that they did before when the Banshee took control of the body. The girl is sleeping, Petal tells us in a cold voice as she sees us climb up the hill towards us. She sees us climb the hill towards her. I can wake her up if you need to tell her something important. The Banshee is sitting on the grass, cross-legged, with the sandwich in her hands. It appears that she was just about to start eating before she saw us come up the hill. Actually, you're the one we want to talk to, not Flower, I say. Is that so? The Banshee says, eyeing me suspiciously. Well, then, by all means, have a seat. She then takes a bite of her sandwich while I seat myself on the grass next to her. Am I correct in assuming that you're Petal? Rose asks. My name is Rose. Pleased to meet you. She then offers the Banshee her hand. Actually, my name is Luna, the Banshee says without taking her hands off her sandwich. Petal is just a nickname that the girl gave me when we first met, because I didn't want to give her my real name. She's been calling me that ever since. Seeing that the Banshee has no intention of shaking her hand, Rose smiles politely and takes a seat on the grass on the other side of her. So, I start to say, it's a really lovely weather we're having, don't you think? The Banshee frowns as she hears my question, and she turns her head towards me. Cut to the chase, human, she says. I've never been very fond of the roundabout ways in which you people like to start your conversations. You're here because you don't trust me to guard your camp by myself, aren't you? Yeah, that's about right. No, I just want to get to know you. Actually, I just wanted to talk about the weather. Gonna go with this one, because smart Goodberry. No, I just wanted to get to know you. Well, then you are either a liar or a fool, Petal says. Nobody should trust a Banshee to have their best interest at heart without some very strong evidence to back up such a claim, and Flower is nowhere near Yeah, I kind of wish I'd saved that so I could do both. And flour is nowhere near a reliable enough source of information when it comes to such matters. You're not even going to try, are you? I ask Petal. Try what? She says. To get us to trust you. Why would I even bother to do such a thing? She asks. We are only traveling together because Flower decided to help you on a whim. Once you are free of your callers, I'm expecting us to part ways and then never hear from each other again. Given these circumstances, I see no reason why I should waste my time trying to gain your trust. Feel free to believe what you want of me, and I will do the same for you. I've been meaning to ask, Rose says. Where did you get that sandwich from? I never saw you carrying a backpack with you. I made it with magic, Luna says as she waves her hand and magically conjures 2 more sandwiches that fall directly into our laps. Here, knock yourselves out. I take a look at the sandwich she conjured out of nowhere and then grab it with both my hands, but I'm a bit hesitant to take a bite from it. I have no idea what ingredient she made this from. Could it be poisoned? Oh, for crying out loud, Aluna says as she sees me eyeing her sandwich suspiciously. You're not seriously thinking that the sandwich is poisoned, are you? Who in the world still uses poison nowadays? Barring the hundreds of easily learnable magic protections that can provide you with immunity against all poisons. You can even buy anti-poison elixirs for 10 coppers apiece. Surely you must have drunk at least one of these before coming to this tournament. A single elixir should easily provide you with immunity to all known poisons for the remainder of this tournament. Just eat the damn sandwich, will you? Rose giggles. Now I understand why Flower told me you were always grumpy, she says, smiling playfully. Spectacular, Aluna says. Is there anything else that the girl shared about me while I was asleep? Well, she most certainly didn't tell me that you could conjure food out of thin air, Rose says. That is normally a skill that only grand priests of each city can master. You must be incredibly talented. Actually, I am ashamed to admit that Flower was the one who taught me this skill. Flower did. Yes, the girl has the natural talent of being able to instantly comprehend some ridiculously complex spells without even spending any effort whatsoever. She only saw the spirit box cast this spell once, 20 years ago, and she managed to mimic it in the very next second. However, she is completely hopeless when it comes to learning spells that require the least amount of studying beforehand. I've been trying to teach her healing for years, but it's like trying to teach an ogre how to speak Lasathi. Rose smiles. See, she tells Aluna, you can actually open us up to us if you try. Banshee frowns at her. Congratulations, she says coldly. You have achieved your goal. Now, will you finally go away and let me finish my sandwich in peace? You know, you look really cute when you frown, Rose says, smiling playfully again. Good grief, Luna says. What would it take to make you go away and let me have my peace and quiet? It's hard enough that I have to put up with Flower while she's awake. Can't I at least have some rest while she's asleep? Of course not, Rose says with a cute smirk on her face. If we went to sleep now, who would be left to tease you all night long? By the gods, Aluna says. It's as if the flowers have multiplied. We ended up spending the next few hours talking with Aluna, and although on the surface she appeared to be annoyed by us, a part of me felt that she was actually enjoying our company in her own way. Even as she maintained her grumpy demeanor throughout Throughout the night, the banshee slowly started opening up towards us and even told us a few stories from her adventures with Flower in the past few years. It was later in the night when we were interrupted by Darren and Hadrick, who came to take over our shift. Wait, wasn't Flower supposed to be the only one taking this shift? Hadrick asks us, surprised. It seems that Flower misled us yesterday, Darren says with a grave tone in his voice, because she apparently never intended on taking that shift herself. Luna and Darren spend a few seconds looking each other in the eye as if they were ready to jump at each other's throats any second. Okay, now let's all calm down. We're all on the same team here. Actually, their souls are fused, so Flower didn't technically lie yesterday. You're not seriously going to start a fight here, are you? Good, smart Barry. Actually, their souls are fused, so Flower didn't technically lie yesterday. Damn it, Barry. Darren says, you know very well what I meant. Their souls might be one and the same, but they still kept their own distinct personalities, as evidenced by the fact that one can be awake while the other is asleep. If you and Rose hadn't been here to keep a close watch on her, who is to say that she wouldn't have slit all of our throats in our sleep if left unsupervised? There would be no use in such underhanded there would be no need to use such underhanded tactics to rid myself of a handful of mages that can't even use magic, Luna says. You and your friends pose no threat to me in your current condition. If you have a bone to pick with me, healer, I would be more than happy to show you that I'm not bluffing. I will take you up on that offer, Banshee, Darren says as he pulls out his sword. Let's see if you fight as well as you run your mouth. Darren, wait! I shout as I place myself between the two of them. Do you plan to kill the girl along with the Banshee? Just because the sword can't lock on the Banshee's aura by itself does not mean I can't do it manually, Darren says. I can still kill the Banshee without harming the girl if I focus hard enough. Have you gone mad? I ask him. How do you expect to properly target the Banshee's aura if the sword can't do it by itself? You're almost guaranteed to fail. If I do, then it would still be a better fate for the girl than to live her whole life chained to an evil spirit. Alright, my dog's making it so I can't sit in a comfortable position. Okay, I need to get to a stopping point. Oh yeah, and who's going to lead us to the ogre stronghold with the girl gone? We already know the general direction. I'd say we are close enough to our destination to be able to make it there even without a guide at this point. Step aside, Barry. Yeah, I say with a laugh as I pull out my dagger. That's gonna happen. Whoa there, friends, Hadrick says. How about you both take a deep, long breath and think about what you're doing? Do you really want to end things like this over some petty squabble? Wouldn't you rather have your names immortalized as legendary warriors who fought in the greatest mage tournament in recent history than be remembered as the idiots who died before the contest even started? Darren, please, Rose says with a fleeting look. Seeing that nobody is on his side, Darren finally decides to sheath his sword. I'm not going to fight you, Barry, he says. I was hoping to intimidate you into backing down, but I suppose that if you aren't the type to get intimidated by a Stillwater or a dragon, a sword isn't exactly going to do me much good. If you feel so strongly about this, then I have no choice but to leave matters as they are. For now. You were right about Kate, so I can only hope that your instincts are right this time too. With these last words, Darren and Hadrick walk past us to take their stations at the top of the hill, while Rose, Aluna, and I head towards our tents. The three of us descend from the hill without uttering a single word to each other, and when we reach Flower's tent, Aluna turns her head towards me before going in. Your intervention from earlier was unnecessary, human, she tells me. I could have taken care of that healer without your help. Come on, don't be like that, I say. Friends should stick out for each other in their time of need. You seem to be under the false impression that you and I are friends. I assure you that you could not be further from the truth. Relax, I only want to make sure we don't lose our guide. I didn't do this for you, I did it for Flower's sake. Love you too, Aluna. I love you too, Aluna. The Banshee frowns at me. I will give you one warning, human. And one warning only, she says. Do not make the mistake of considering me your ally. Our affiliation is only temporary and will end the moment we finish our little trip together. You would be a fool to think otherwise. She then turns her back towards us and slowly steps into her tent. Good night, Aluna, Rose says, waving, but the Banshee gives no sign of having heard her, and she closes the tent behind her. Well, I see that went pretty well, Rose says, smiling as we head for our tents. You think? I ask her. Of course I do, she says. Didn't you see how...
Bitch! I love you!
Thank you for the follow, Voidstorm. Welcome in. Hope your night's going well. Of course I do, she says. Didn't you see how happy she was when you jumped to her defense earlier? If you managed to see past our grumpy facade, you can tell that she really isn't that much different from the rest of us. I think I'm starting to see a little bit of flower in you. There's a little bit of flower in all of us, Barry. There's a little bit of flower in all of us, Barry, Rose says as she points towards me. Yours just happens to be buried underneath several layers of cynicism and sarcastic quips. Alright, I'm gonna end here. Go away. Transfer local saves to cloud. Oh no, I saved and then I clicked load. See? Book 1, Chapter 9, save. Thank you for checking though. Transfer local saves to cloud. Transfer checkpoint to cloud. Save slot 1, save slot 2, save slot 3, save slot 4, save slot 5, save slot 6, save slot 7, save slot 8, save slot 9. Okay. I click load just to make sure that it's saved in the right spot. But you should always check just in case if you're not sure. Okay. I will go back over here. Well, thank you to everyone for joining. Thank you again to Voidstorm and Diddy Kong and Chucky for following. I really very much appreciate you. Irish Pooh Hair, if you're still here. Again, thank you so much for joining. Tomorrow, depending on mental health, I should be starting Portal. But I'm going to go to sleep now. Again, thank you everyone. Have a really good rest of your night or day or whatever it is wherever you are. I appreciate and love each and every one of you. Good night.